New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
It's Ebro in the morning, the beautiful Laura Stiles, Rosenberg, and then I want to introduce everybody out there listening. It's a very important conversation we're going to have today. Colin Warner, respect to you, sir, and Matt Ruskin, Crown Heights movie, which drops tomorrow in theaters, based on a true story. So let's start. First of all, Colin, thank you for coming.
Greetings.
Can you come closer to the mic? Yeah.
Greetings. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, and your story, which is in this film. Thanks for sharing and being a part of this. I want to hear about the process too.
Process of doing 21 years or making
the movie. The 21 years is in the movie.
Do you want to give Matt? Maybe Matt could give us real quick how.
And that's where I was going to go next.
The synopsis of the story, and then we can hear about the process of getting the film done.
But I didn't want to not salute a man
Of course.
who did 21 years.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? For a crime he didn't commit, and just jump to Matt. But Matt, you put this film together. Talk about how this film came about.
Yeah, I heard his story on a radio show called This American Life, and I was just completely blown away by what he had been through and how he handled it, and his friend Carl King, who spent 20 years trying to get him out of prison.
How long ago was This American Life story?
I heard it in 2010. It had actually originally come out 5 years before that.
Okay.
And so I was just floored by their story. This story I couldn't get out of my head, and so I tracked them down and just spent, better part of a year interviewing them and just trying to get it right.
And it was, and you, Matt, I'm sure you've worked on many other projects before, but did you know, this was how many years ago you started working on this?
It's about 6 years.
About 6 years ago. And obviously it's coming out now. How long has this film been completed?
We premiered the film at Sundance in January.
Yeah,
so it was a long road getting this thing made, yeah.
Because it's so timely. The reason I'm asking that is because it's so timely with mass incarceration and a lot of what's happening here, not only in New York City with NYPD attempting to clean up their act, but even with the Brooklyn DA who, rest in peace to Ken Thompson, but he had made it his business to, dig deeper into people who were accused of crimes they didn't commit. We've recently heard of officers losing their badges.
No, the Pedro Hernandez story. And, we just hear stories on and on of young, black and brown boys that get locked up and they can't, one of the main reasons they can't get out is because their families are poor. They can't afford bail, and it's like, we hear about crooked cops. We hear, there's so many layers, but it seems like we hear the story over and over and over again. And when we saw the trailer, that's exactly what it reminded us. We just talked about a story like this with Pedro Hernandez.
Well,
Colin,
let me
go
interject
ahead.
now.
Yes.
This is the issue with the movie. From my experience from 1980 to 2017, there's basically no change, right? They basically kidnapped me and buried me, right? But in 2017, a guy like me wouldn't go to trial no more.
Mm-hmm.
He just get his head cracked open in the streets. Right, so this movie, I want people to hear my story. My story is your story, right? And if it could cause some energy to have people move, because we are still, and only time change could happen is when we move. So if it could cause some type of movement so we could get together, because, listen, I fought the state of New York, right? Some may say, listen, it's 2 decades and more, right? But I say, listen, in the eyes of God is an eye wink, right? So we have to put things in perspective and use our power within to get up out of whatever situation that we find ourselves in, right? I could have been anybody in America in 1980. That's how frivolous and listen, sometimes I can't explain it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I tell everybody like a Star Trek movie or Twilight Zone episode where the abnormal becomes normal, right? Even in our thinking process, right? And we have to, like, I don't know, jumpstart or bang our head against the wall so we can wake up, open our eyes, and see things a different way, and we can go a different road to whatever pleasures or desires we may need, in life, But I'm you again, right? I'm everybody in this room. Sons, nephews, uncles, right? And this is America, man. You know what I'm saying? Come on, let's use what we have to live a decent life, right? This thing is still happening. Everybody say, oh, the normal quote from prisoners, oh, I'm innocent. They do have innocent people in prison. That's a form, to me, that's a form of killing, right? And you have to have a strong mind, not only to survive prison, but to work on your case at the same time, because by you getting a prison sentence, that don't mean you're going to come back out, right? So it's a battle, just like it's a battle out here.
When you talk about being innocent, and obviously you don't want to give away the entire movie, but can you take us a little bit through where you were in your life, and when you were you literally just a man in Crown Heights living life who randomly, completely got nabbed for this?
Right. I came in America February 14th, 1978, and this crime happened April 10th, 1980. I was a foreigner, plain and simple. I had not yet become assimilated into society, right? People, in my opinion, singled me out. But I was okay because I know I was in someplace different and I had to get used to the country. Boom, the scenario changes, the scene changes, just like that. Right, so now I'm telling people from the beginning, right? They don't believe me. Because in our culture, there's always some underlying motion is going on. So
well, you can be specific. You have there's hate towards immigrants. There's racism. Yeah. There's cops who are racist. There's cops who are just trying to put closure on an incident so that they can make the community feel like we're doing our job. So they just pick a person, throw their face on camera and like, look, we fixed it.
That's it, we got him.
Not thinking about the humanity or the life that's going to be lost because they don't feel like doing their job correctly.
Yeah, but you say immigrant, right? But on the streets, the skin color does not differentiate between immigrant and native citizens. Mm-hmm. We are all one. So that is the category I was put in. In 1980, the police department had a mugshot file of just Rastafarians. People with dreadlocks on their head, Rastafarian, that's it. Right, so the whole culture was like a Wild West. Mm-hmm. Anything goes, and you're on the streets, police pull you up, get on the wall. What you gonna do? You gotta get on the wall. You get frisked down, and then you say go on your way.
And they did this before. You know, they used to do this with the Afro, too.
Yeah.
They used to, like my dad used to talk about how they just have files of black men with Afros.
Yeah.
You know, that they would categorize this haircut or this look. Right. You know, that's where profiling comes from. Exactly. We have this conversation a lot about profiling. Now it's beards. Real talk. It's beards. They have pictures of men with beards.
Yeah.
Because that's a popular style for people who are brown or Muslim or black or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Matt, when you were interviewing people for the movie, I know you did your investigation. How many times did you find instances where you were like, this is clearly, excuse my language, bullshit, and they weren't even able to like admit it to themselves that it was bullshit what was happening?
Yeah, I mean, the cop, the lead investigator, he had died by the time I heard the story. So there weren't a lot of people sort of on the other side of the case that I could interview. But one of the things that the lawyer said, the trial lawyer, and then the guy that helped them with the final appeal was saying that, like, you know, his conviction was based on the testimony of a 15-year-old kid who said he saw what happened. And the kid was railroaded by police. And they always say, like, the adults in the room, the judge, the prosecutors, the other detectives, somebody should have done something along the way. There was, you know, many opportunities that this could have been corrected in the court system. And it just, you know, everybody just let this happen.
What do you mean, though? So they're saying they shouldn't have just accepted the singular testimony from a 15-year-old who very well may have been influenced?
Yeah, I mean, he admitted to lying to the grand jury on the stand during the trial. Colin told me that the court officers had like a pool going, betting on that he was going to be acquitted, because they would stand there and watch the testimony, and they could just tell this was the case was a joke.
Wow.
And what, Colin, in yours, why? I know the answer. I think everybody watching this knows the answer, but I want to hear from you. Why do you believe, other than, you know, negligence and just cheap labor in the prison pipeline, why do you believe on that day they got you?
Listen, one black man was murdered, and any black man was to pay for his death. It didn't matter who it was. That's why I'm saying I am you. Right? When you look at me, you look at yourself, right? Because it just happened.
That fast.
It just happened. Right? So if people don't believe what I'm saying, go look at the movie. Right? This is our culture right now. We believe everything we see and what we hear. Go see the movie and probably you might get a better insight of what's going on right now.
When did you realize, at what point, because I'm guessing you get picked up, right? And it's scary, but you're like, all right, hold on, this is a mistake. This is a mistake, right? At what point do you realize, like, this mistake could last a very long time?
Listen, my hope upon my arrest was exactly as you say. Okay, I knew I didn't commit a crime. So eventually the system gonna realize it and let me go. And this was my hope for 21 years. 21 years. I tell myself, listen, I had was to go down that road. If you check your high school classmates from graduation, look up each one of them and see the road they have traveled. But we all go different road. Sometimes it's consciously, and sometimes it's forcibly. My abduction was forcibly, right? I didn't have no pass before 1980, April 10, 1980, right? All my history started from here until now. I can get on the gate at night and tell war stories about what I was doing on the streets. Didn't have it, right? So even on a mental level, trauma. You know what I'm saying? And I hope people will understand the pain that was endured in making a so-called good movie, right? Just don't look at the visuals. Actually try to feel, because we don't feel. We can feel another man's pain, and that's what Colin did. Colin did 21 years in prison with me.
And how did you know Carl King?
Carl King was my childhood friend from Trinidad and Tobago. He came to America probably 3 years before me, and we connected immediately upon my arrival to New York. So basically my whole life I've been knowing this guy. And what he did for me could never be repaid. What he did for me, professionals can do in the whole career. And this is a man so-called from the streets.
And where's Carl now?
Carl he living in Brooklyn. I wish he was here now, you know what I'm saying? But his spirit is here because I am here. I am here because of Carl King.
And you arrived in America from Trinidad. You were how old?
16.
And you came to America because you just wanted to work, you better opportunity.
Now I'm 16. I ain't trying to work. I was, again, a kid at 16. Was living with my grandmother and father. And at 16, I moved to America to live with my mother. Again, she went through the same travels, coming from the West Indies to America to find a better living, right? And I came here with her, and that's when my odyssey started, right? But I'm telling you, I believe that we are all in a struggle, right? And people must not equate it to guns and trenches and warfare, right? It's a mental warfare. I believe in each of our struggle, we should be able to connect, right? And form a bigger collective. But forces are making us separated, right? But this is where the consciousness comes in, right? And I hope, I pray that the people do not let 21 years be in vain. Let my 21 years be a lesson, a guide, right, for the future for our youth, right? Because in a lot of ways, we adults have dropped the ball. Let the youth pick it up. Give them something to pick it up and run. And we may see something different.
His name is Colin Warner. Matt Ruskin. Together they put together this great film, Crown Heights, the movie, which is out. Matt, you know, I mean, we could continue, but I'm sure you guys covered a lot of this story. When you first heard this story on This American Life, had you heard of things like this before? Were you a type of person that was like, yeah, people say they're innocent all the time? Like, what did you discover about yourself in making this film?
You know, for me, it was really about using what I love to do to contribute something meaningful. I had just come off working on a film that like was a really tough process, and I really did. My heart wasn't in it. And when I heard their story, I was just so moved by them personally. And obviously, there's really important issues involved with the film, but for me, it was just kind of showing the human side of it. For me, it gave me a sense of purpose that this was something that I could, you know, put my life into. So that on a personal level, that's really what it meant to me. And the hope is that the film, you know, it's not a documentary. It's not pretending. I'm not an expert in the criminal justice system. I worked with these guys really closely to try and tell their story in a way that's true to the spirit of who they are. And hopefully people can look at this stuff after seeing this film from the human side and think about these issues in that way as well.
Is there any piece of this too that is dealing with our criminal system? You know, because that's a larger, you know, Ava DuVernay's The 13th, and the idea that after slavery in this country and all of that, you know, this country began to lock up black men, you know what I mean? And then once that war on drugs started, it went to a whole other level in the private prison system and the motivation behind locking up a lot of these young black men and brown men to get free and cheap labor, right? Like that's a big discussion in our country right now because we lock up more people than any, you know, first world country. Do you delve into any of that in the film, or is this specifically to this storyline?
This is just one of millions of stories, right? And so this was the one that moved me, and this was the story that we told was just theirs. And it was important for us to just try and keep it about them. You know, there are issues involved in this story, but first and foremost, this is a story about these guys, their friendship, you know, the principled way in which they handled this and the strength they showed over the years.
Well, I thank you so much, Matt, for taking this project on, and Colin for sharing.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much.
And where and the people can get this everywhere.
Yeah, it's showing the IFC. It's showing, I mean, Crown Heights all over New York City, man. Let me see. Hang on.
So major cities, New York, Los Angeles.
It's at Lincoln Plaza. It's at IFC tomorrow.
And UA Court Street in Brooklyn.
Yeah, UA, yep, in Brooklyn. So there's a lot of showtimes happening tomorrow.
And if people watching this all over the country don't get in their town, they can catch it when it comes to iTunes.
It's going to be on VOD and then Amazon months down the road. But it's New York this weekend. We expand to LA next weekend, and then nationwide in September.
Oh wow! So it'll be full release. People will catch it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
There
you
it is.
guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Give it up, man. Thanks for your struggle, brother.
Thank you.